All right, before we start, we just want to make sure that we've got a good polished face on both our dolly and our hammer. We want to make sure that we select a dolly that has a contour similar to the shape of the hood. So when I put the dolly underneath the panel, we're going to make sure that this curvature in the dolly here actually matches this curvature in the hood. So the dent we have here is very small, but it is pretty tight, so it's actually been stretched. And I'm going to start by bumping out the damage. So I'm going to use that curved, blunt part of the dolly, and I'm going to put it right up to the lowest point of the damage, which is right here. Situate my dolly so it's balancing right in the center of the damage, and I'm going to bump it out. So as you can see on the top, as I bumped it out, we ended up sort of moving this area around the damage, actually lifted up too. It almost formed sort of like a volcano. The reason for that is because since it's stretched, it's become work hardened. So this little area in the center is harder than the area around, so when I bumped it up, it was easier for this area to raise up. So we need to consider that when we start dollying it out. So what I'll be doing, putting my dolly under that center point again, and I'm going to start hammering. I'm going to be slightly hammer off dolly, slightly hammer on dolly, because my dolly is going to be mainly in the center of this area, and my hammer is going to be around that rim of the volcano. Now, what I want to do here is, I know I'm not going to be able to get it completely flat because it is definitely stretched. So what I'm going to be doing is actually getting the metal all into the very center here. I'm going to move it all into the center. Now, whenever we're shrinking, we should try and get all our damage raised upwards, and then when we shrink it, we're going to knock it down. It seems to be a way that you actually gain the best control. So I'm going to continue now. I'm actually going to put an edge of the dolly into that center section and make sure I pull all the metal into the center. Right now my main concern is how the metal feels in the surrounding area. And right now it feels really good. We've got our stretched metal concentrated to the center. And now I'm going to set a neutral flame on the torch, and we're going to come down and we're just going to set about a dime size cherry red shrink in the center of that damage. Now, we need to make sure we have everything ready. Get our hammer set, get our dolly set, so that we can quickly turn off the torch, put the torch down, grab our hammer and dolly, and hit that shrink on the head before it gets too cold. So, your very first hammer blow after heating the stretched area is the most important, so you've really got to make it count. So we want to make sure we bring our torch down totally perpendicular to the panel. So what you'll notice is I heated up the spot that needed to be shrunk, and then my first hammer blow was direct hammer on dolly. Now, I didn't actually have the dolly that tight to the panel because it was more or less just giving support to the surrounding area, okay, or the bottom of that, you know, volcanic rim that we talked about in the first place. Now, the first hammer blow actually forces the metal into itself and really does most of our shrinking for us. And the rest of it is basically control, just getting the metal back to where it used to be. So what I did at that point is I was more or less holding my dolly into the low spots and tapping down the high spots. Now in this case, that one shrink did the trick. We've got it down far enough. As a matter of fact, it feels a little too flat, which tells me that we may have overshrunk a little bit. Not a big deal. How do we stretch metal? Stretching metal is easy. Basically, we just give it a little bit of hammer-on dolly blows in the area where it needs it. It's not going to take that much, and we'll get our crown back in our hood. I'm applying a little bit more force with the dolly in this case to help out the stretching action. And that's feeling pretty good there. And there it is. There's a simple shrink.